Good morning, everybody. Jump scare. Hopefully I did that a little easier than I was anticipating. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to today's live recording of Arc 6, Chapters 47. Let me fix this. To 49. I wasn't purposely trying to skip a chapter on you guys, I promise. I just forgot. Thank you, Setowi, for letting us use your colorized version of the light novel illustration. It looks great. Hello. Couple announcements before we get started. Podcast, this is the week. I'm going to finally be editing them. So you'll be getting your podcasts this week. Members will get them early as they get uploaded to the channel. But everyone else will get them Fridays and Mondays until I catch up. And then when we catch up, it'll go back to Friday uploads. Yay, the boys just finished catching up with Arc 9 again. So you got multiple Arc 9 phases coming your way, as well as an Arc 6 analysis with me that I might have to severely edit because I was in a lot of stuff that time. But I will be catching up with Arc 7 and 8, so we might do something similar there later with the podcast and planning more. Thank you, everybody who auditioned. We have over 870 auditions to sort through now. Thank you so much for all that fucking work. But, no, thank you so much for everyone auditioning. After the stream, the boys and I will be going and shortlisting people. So if you are shortlisted on the casting call, or eventually when we email you saying we're shortlisting you for this, and this, that means you will be welcome back for a callback. So the callbacks, once we get through all the auditions, we'll announce that, hey, we've let everyone know about callbacks. If you have not heard anything back, we're really sorry. Thank you for your time. Or let you know, like, hey, we're thinking of you for extras. So just, like, stay put. We'll do our callbacks with a lot of characters. So it'll take us about 2, maybe 3 weeks. We'll have our final announcement of our cast probably by the end of July. Yay! So that is done. Thank you, everyone. And without further ado, let's bring on the cast. La 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 la. You guys are live. Wait. You guys are live.
Yay!
Yay! Also, thank you, Unknown Ranger and Chill Dice.
Yes, big thanks to everyone to help us out with our Arc 7 and 8 funds because our auditions for 7 and 8 have ended. And oh my god, we have so many auditions.
So many auditions.
So many takes.
I don't have me the job.
We have 500 that we have not listened to yet, and over 200 that we already have listened to. So,
800
back in the
mines.
Ew, jeez.
on average, it's about a minute for us to go through, listen, and see if it's worth like listening for the next round or letting that one go. So you know that's about 10 hours straight of work if we did nothing else.
At least half of mine are just straight in the bin, because I am not a gruff dude, so that makes it a little easier for me.
KLD, just out of safety, we still listen to all of yours all the way through, just to make sure,
Fair
like,
enough.
if she pulls this one off, then we know we can rely on her.
We can make her gauze.
Your gauze is pretty crazy.
Your gauze was pretty crazy.
It was.
I don't even remember. I have them somewhere, but I record them and send them off and then never listen to them again.
You're one of the only ones who got like that big booming energy for him that we were really wanting to do. It's like, well, she's not bad.
Just not a dude, so sorry.
If I can be in the contention for Rom, you can be in the contention for anyone.
Is that just
I forget what it is. It's like the opposite of helium, but there's some gas that like lowers your voice way down.
You could take it. like every 5 seconds or every other line, you just start huffing it.
Which is probably bad, so
You're
It's
actually
like it's like
You're full of love, you just
sulfur
get some gas.
something. Like
Oh.
sulfur
Yeah, something,
tetrafluoride, hexafluoride, something like that.
something like that, yeah.
nice.
Okay, maybe you shouldn't start huffing
Of course,
that.
it's a derivative of sulfur.
I'll come
Yeah.
come back like 2 weeks later. It's like, man, did you get more of it? Your voice is really low. It's like, no, I've been off it for
Nope.
2 weeks.
I've been huffing the sulfur.
This is all you get now.
Jeez Louise.
Matilda, are you ready for Betty?
Oh,
Yeah.
comes back like a smoker. The chain
Okay.
smoker accent.
To our pros. Introduce ourselves.
Oh shit, yeah.
Yes,
That's
yes.
Oh yeah,
We're,
true.
Al,
Didn't
we're
even-
kick us
live.
off.
That's crazy. Hello, everyone. I am Al. I am the main guy who was sidetracking us at the current moment. I am sorry. I'll let the next guy
Nothing
handle
new.
it.
Hello, everyone. I am Connor, your voice of Julius and Ramen, one of the hosts of the ReZero podcast, which has just finished our recording for Arc 9. So get ready for those to start coming out in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and I'm Gold. I'm also one of the hosts of the ReZero podcast. And we also just finished Arc 9. Oh, wait, somebody already said that. All right, go on.
Ooh,
All right, Greeny here, one of the editors of Studio Reverie. I'm honestly tired. I'm back from vacation. I'm tired.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Carmen, your lovely voice of Melee, as well as one of the other editors for Studio Reverie.
Woo! I'm Kyle's. Forgot where I was for a moment. I'm Amelia, and I'm finally done teaching, so I have life again. Yay!
Hello, I'm Tealdi. I narrate, I stand in for Betty, and as fun as it would try to be to do all of Arc 7 by myself, no thank you.
That'd be pretty fucked.
Hi guys, Wolf here. I'm your Subaru, and I'm also a co-host of the ReZero podcast. And believe it or not, guys, you're not going to believe this. We just finished Arc 9 in the recordings! Wah!
I promise I said
Hell
that
yeah.
in the intro, too.
Just thought they ought to know.
Yeah. This makes it all the better.
Did you know we finished Arc 9? Not me. Not half the staff.
Just us.
Yeah, podcast hosts are finally caught up. We can look at our
We can look
ReZero
at the
Novels
spoilers
channel on
and all the
Discord.
cool fan art now and be happy.
You can go back
through
on
all
Twitter.
of
Oh, wait,
Ross's
don't do
art
that. Yeah,
safely.
don't do that.
Don't go on Twitter.
Don't go on Twitter. That one's not. I would not recommend that.
All right. Excuse me. We all ready? We realized we were talking about only doing 2 chapters, and then we realized I forgot a chapter. So we are now doing 3. Are you guys ready to get started?
Oh, to the mines.
Yes.
Hi. Yes, I
Hi.
am.
To the basement.
Away.
Let's get it started, everybody. Who's heading this first chapter?
I think it's Al. Yes.
That would be
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Al
lovely.
with the
Then why
whole
don't you...
host.
Are you ready to set it in?
Oh, we remember all the dashes are wolf.
Some do it.
Not all
All
of
of
them
them.
Not all of
is
them.
actually. I'm checking that now.
Okay.
I realized that this first one is going to be a couple weird ones.
Oh.
Oh. Huh.
All right.
okay.
It's Cass. Actually, let's give Connor a moment to set that up because we're gonna have to refresh.
There's
Yes.
some on,
They'll
like,
remember to
page
refresh today, I promise.
12.
Sorry.
There's one on page 10,
Hey, it's your line.
Oh, it's a Melee line?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Hey.
page 12.
Internal panic.
Uh,
You will never
page
know
13.
listening to my voice.
page 15. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, the next chapter's format a little strange, but that's just how it is. So give us a time to work that out real quick to make sure that everyone's saying the right lines.
Amount of Arc 9 is on
And-
Twitter. Yes, 100%, Mickey. It's been driving me nuts. I literally got it off my phone and the computer. My mental health is
Yeah.
quite excellent now. But
Honestly, that's the
then I go into
Good idea.
my stream yesterday, and one of my normal community members goes, "Oh yeah, when this happened in Arc 9." I'm like, "No, I'm not caught up. What the hell?"
Oh.
Oh, no.
And he was like,
Oh,
"Oh,
I-
thanks mods for deleting that." I was like, "It wasn't the mods, it was me." Bye.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
that.
Apparently,
I
it's not a
did.
big
That wasn't
one,
me.
but
Okay.
Still.
Subaru farts.
super farts on command.
Guys. Subaru dies.
Bum,
It's the
bum,
sequel
bum.
to the piss arc. The fart arc.
piss, I suppose.
So we'll put a cork in it, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a Melee line at the start? Is that an actual Melee line or is it Subaru Melee line?
The fifth line of chapter 47.
Mm-hmm.
It's internal. So all the ones that start with this dash are in the head.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Common has a
Buggy.
reverb,
Yes.
I do have a reverb. I could use it.
which is actually
schizophrenia
perfect
filter.
for yeah, the next chapter for sure.
I can use it if you want me to use it.
Do it.
I mean, it
Make
saves us some
editing easier.
editing.
Yeah.
That is kind of nice.
Mhm.
Hello. All right, Common's using that effect. I need to get
All
that for the
stream.
rest of
Get
us.
used to it. Get used to it.
Ghost Melee. Ooh.
Ooh.
Oh my god, that's just amazing.
Dude, I was chilling in Arc 8 for like 12 chapters of Arc 9. I never even touched Twitter for like over a year, and then I get blasted by the largest spoiler possible from like a Twitter notification
No.
on my phone.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got one yesterday
I was
too
like-
from Reddit.
Mine
Yeah,
was
that'll
on
happen.
YouTube.
Yeah,
This is
it's-
why I turn off all notifications. You'll never find me.
or the bodies.
What?
What?
That's the part we don't say out loud.
Yeah, sorry.
But that's all that this chapter is about, is finding the bodies.
Where is
Find
the
the
body?
pages.
Where's little Melee?
I think I've gone through 47 to hit all of the lines.
Merci, refresh. Oh, I don't need to refresh.
got
I'm the main owner. Fuck.
I gotta change account every time I refresh. Damn
No.
it. Because it defaults to my real name one. It's like, no, not that one.
Mhm.
If it helps, we can't see it. You're just a little animal.
Yeah, it's anonymous
Good.
anyways.
Good, but still.
Yeah, I might as well change it. You can tell which one's
I've done that
Connor's,
at-
anyways.
I've done it a couple times on the
Dude.
wrong call when I've edited on the wrong account.
It's the panic when you go to join something and it's the wrong account. And you're like, oh
As
my
your
god,
full
no!
fucking legal name.
No, 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 no.
Get me out
That's
of
right.
here!
Kyle's already has my legal name.
I do. I
All of my
honestly-
details, actually.
I honestly forgot it. I won't lie.
Oh, wait a
It's
minute.
not even. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because I was
Seeing that was
Common's
kind of like,
work mentor.
Mhm.
Well, Common did a placement with Reverie. Which
Yeah.
honestly, you're so wild for that. We're
I'm
not
like-
even a workplace.
No,
Yeah,
we are
my-
professional space.
Absolutely, we are a workplace.
Me telling anyone, I'm
We
like,
do
yeah,
work.
I own an international voice acting company. They're like, that's so impressive. I'm like, oh, we're on YouTube. They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like,
Oh.
Yeah, it's like, where's your studio? Yeah.
Us,
You
yeah,
have visible
Reverie.
voice?
We
Our
voice-
studio is everywhere. That is the freedom of the internet.
Exactly. And YouTube is just a free
does that mean-
space.
I have a job.
You know, there was a there's a school work party that was held at a funeral home because it was free. So
What
I
the fuck?
mean,
Oh.
like we're just using YouTube because it's free. Rent is expensive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, they did a party at a funeral home because it was a free space and they could drink in it.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
No one was using it at the time.
Well, they could have been using it next door for a service, but it's okay.
Ooh.
Yo, cadavers, put your hands up.
Hey yo, everybody in the club, put your hands up. Silence.
Get jiggy with it.
Do, 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 do.
Are we?
So chapter
Okay,
47.
chapter
Are you ready
47,
for
everyone!
We are
Sorry.
derailed so
Okay,
hard.
okay.
Yeah.
But yes,
Take it away, Al.
we need to bring it in.
Arc 6, Chapter 47. I won't forgive you. A dark, 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 dark place. In the back of his head. The back. Myself, I who you, Natsuki Subaru, Melee Porch Route. Natsuki Konichi, Elsa Gran here, Natsuki Naoko, Petrolite, Amelia Shala, Beatrice, Frederica Bauman, Anastasia Hoshin, Garfield Tinsel, Julius Drukulius, Otto Suin Ram, the blue hair who is I am, you are I am, myself is, the others are, I, you, me.
Myself. Hi. Natsuki. Subaru. Myself. Hi. Natsuki. Subaru.
Who? I. Mainly pork trout. Who? I. Mainly pork trout.
These thoughts spun round and round and round in his mind, blurring the lines between what was reality and what was not. They were fused together as one, blending as one, becoming entwined as one, feeling affection as one, hating as one, suffering as one, loving as one, desiring as one, killing as one, wishing as one, destroying as one, threatening as one, understanding as one, crying as one, laughing as one, not understanding as one. You can only be yourself. Others can only be themselves. There was no room for compromise, no compromise out of pity, no chance to engender a compromise, no be considerate to each other. There was nothing, nothing at all in the end.
Subaru?
Shaking his head back and forth, he exerted himself in trying to extract the thorn of the so-called other person from his own inside with utmost effort. Amelia and Beatrice both gently hoisted him up by his shoulders and propped the struggling boy up from his left and right, whilst feeling traces of the two's worries on their cheeks. The boy, the individual who should be called Natsuki Subaru, was attempting to determine the boundary between his own self and others. He was struggling in his attempt to regain himself. A swirl of thoughts clouded him. The correct answer disappeared through the whirl of emotions melting together inside of him. His lungs were convulsing. If he were to feel his throat now, he would realize that his breathing had become painful. From within his neck, he was experiencing a severe sense of pressure. A fear that he would suffocate was slowly assaulting him. The sensation of impending death once again revived within him. The feeling of wanting to vomit surfaced inside him and caused warm tears to stream out of his eyes. While confronted by this horrible feeling, Subaru slowly and carefully tried to exclude that which would not define him from within him, struggling to establish his own personal identity. First-person pronouns, second-person pronouns, memory, recollections, impressions, feelings, identifying that which belonged to the other person and distinguishing between them. Just like that, if he sifted through what was not his and removed the stuff that had gotten blended together, he would go back to as he was. Otherwise, this state in which they were fused and blended together would never peel off. It was himself and the little girl who had been killed by his own hands that were mixed together in a hodgepodge of...
Natsuki-kun, what the heck did you see? Are you able to tell us?
During his immersion into his current identity crisis, a voice had called out from in front of Subaru. He looked towards it. Right in front of him, at the same level he was crouched at, a person with pale turquoise eyes was squinting at him. Anastasia. Now, was it Echidna now? In any case, it was that girl. Despite Subaru having such recognition, Echidna's eyes remained quite serious, and she continued to speak.
I sympathize that you are in a tough spot, but the current situation we are all in is quite grave. If you are able to, we need information as soon as possible. That way we do not make any mistakes when dealing with this. Wait, Echidna? Just now, Subaru experienced something terrible. Of course, I know that. I also appreciate that his recklessness was something he did for us, you know? That is why we ought to have duty in responding quickly to his judgment.
Subaru could only let out a hoarse breath as Echidna's assertions pierced through Amelia's attempt to defend him. Whilst talking, Echidna's gaze for a moment turned towards the fallen book on the floor behind him. Taking a look at the thick black binding of the book, Echidna continued her speech with a because.
The little girl who accompanied us is missing. Furthermore, a book which seems to match the little girl's name was found in the library, which records the memories of the dead. The situation is serious. We cannot afford to be treading water here. Yeah, But
Amelia was incapable of finding a rebuttal against Echidna's low, insisting tone of voice. In fact, Echidna's complaint was justified. In this messed up situation, the only one to possess vital information was Subaru. Taking everyone's feelings into consideration, it could be said that everyone here had no time to spare to calm down. As she knew that, Echidna was prepared to be blamed, so with a steeled heart, she raised her questions at Subaru. At hearing her resolve, Subaru grit his teeth again and placed his hand against his throat. With all his strength, fighting against the feeling that he could not breathe, he shut his eyes and...
let me try asking again, Natsuki-kun. What did you see inside the book?
I saw Meili's memories.
Huh?
Subaru responded with perfect honesty to Echidna's questions without attempting to deceive her. Just as he said that, to her side, Amelia held her breath, and in front of him, Echidna closed her eyes. Next to them, Beatrice, Julius, and Ram each respectively had expressions of worry and grief floating across their faces. The Book of the Dead had shown Subaru Meili's memories. There was not a single person here who would not be able to understand what that meant. Could there have been a mistake, and the memories in Meili's book had been laid out there by some error? How easy would it have been to comfort oneself by clinging on to such futile hope? However, in this place, he was not alone in wanting to surrender himself to this deception and escaping towards the more comfortable option, especially for the girls right next to Subaru, whose cheeks had stiffened in distress trying to bear this.
Subaru, in fact. Calm down and focus on regaining yourself, I suppose.
Sorry.
It's okay, in fact. Right now, you can rely on Betty, I suppose. This isn't just your fault, Subaru, in fact. Don't beat yourself up, I suppose.
Beatrice had stood up and hugged Subaru's head as he breathed unsteadily. It was ironic, as whilst checking on Subaru's well-being, the little girl that was gently stroking his black hair with her hands would keep his heart scattered into thousands of little pieces at the water's edge. Beatrice had so benevolently said that it was not Subaru's fault. However, this was no one's fault but Natsuki Subaru's who had committed this crime. Not knowing this fact, Beatrice was speaking gently to him and treating him kindly. It was so absurd that it was almost comical, yet harrowing.
Miss Rom, what do you think?
As Beatrice and Subaru were having an exchange, Julius, with a serious look etched onto his face, had turned towards Ram and tried to get her input on the matter. Compared to the others, the complexion of those two had not paled in shock to the same extent. Following Meili's memories, it was known that these two had been the most wary about her. At least, Meili had felt that both Ram and Julius had never lacked in vigilance towards her, as she had once been an assassin. Conversely, she had certainly taken note of Amelia and Echidna's carelessness towards her.
If you believe the words that Subaru just spoke, Miss Meili has already... There is no way Barasu would be skillful or cold-hearted enough to conjure up a lie in this situation. I am certain that book is Meili's. To make sure, we could have someone else check it.
Holding her slender arms, Ram glared down at the book still lying on the floor. Following that speech, Julius frowned in thought and stated,
If I were to... Would there be even any leeway for you, since you would be reading one of these books for a second time? So to speak, what if doing it a second time means you end up in the same state as Barasu? Of course, we could also presume that it only responded to this degree in Barasu due to him being immature and inexperienced. But, unfortunately, when it comes to whether your current mindset can be said to be more stable than Barasu's, Rom has not evaluated it as being any better.
Standing up stiffly, Julius held his breath as he heard Ram's words, who had narrowed her light pink eyes. However, he quickly shook his head and said, That's reasonable.
It is bitter, but I have no basis to reject the words of Miss Rom. Yesterday, when I acted in this predicament so selfishly and arbitrarily, without consulting anyone, I am definitely not qualified to do this at all.
I am sorry, but I also agree.
Echidna raised her hand and barged her way into the conversation after hearing Julius's self-deprecating words, and whilst fiddling with the white scarf wrapped around the base of her neck.
However, the basis of my argument is not the state of the mind of Julius. Purely, I am only stating my opposition to this because, from looking at the state of Natsuki-kun that he's in, it is too dangerous to try this.
It is pretty much a fact that it is dangerous. It is quite obvious that this situation is very much twisted. Indeed. Compared to last time, it seems that the influence from reading the book is much stronger. The only question is whether this is down to reading the book more than once, or whether it is due to the specific book you read. Maybe it is both the number of times you read it and who the book belongs to.
As Ram and Julius racked their brains, Echidna nodded at the two with an,
Simply put, could there be a mechanism where the burden increases the more you read? Or perhaps, could it be that it wraps your mind due to seeing memories of a person that was close to you? I think the possibilities are divided into two.
A person close to you, huh?
Echidna had raised her fingers, and to her conjecture, Ram turned towards Subaru. Seeing her glaring at him, Subaru desperately tried not to scream from where he was, his face pressed against the middle of Beatrice's delicate chest. Most likely, Echidna's guesses were correct. The reason why Subaru's heart had suffered so much damage was due to her latter guess. The cause of this burden was likely because he had looked at the memories of someone he was quite well acquainted with. People involved in closer relationships, those fresh records of life would bring a greater impact. It was natural that people who would be more interested in close companions than in people they had more distant relationships with. Subaru also wished this as a fact. As a matter of fact, Subaru and Mildy's minds had almost merged together, and he was coming to grips with that he wanted to know her. As a result, Subaru had come to face the unfathomable emptiness in the depth of oneself. That young girl had been carrying this feeling of emptiness for all of her life.
Anyways, we can't sit still without doing anything. Let's go search for Meili.
A strong feeling of silence echoed across the room. It had been Amelia who had looked up firmly with both of her hands placed upon her chest and said this. Amelia had gained everyone's attentions in the library, and Subaru widened his eyes at her words.
Searching. What the hell? What was the meaning of this? Meili, damn, but I'm already dead.
Even though they never cared about me, even though they never even cared about me before she died.
Even if we can't find her, it's probably too late. If only we had been with that girl. But probably we couldn't have. But at the very least, we need to find her body. So, no one at all knows where that little girl could have wandered off to? First of all, we should find her. And after that, we will see what we can do. Let's go search for her.
Amelia's words were not solid. They were far off from being reliable and wise. What was the point of this? The insistence of the me inside Subaru remained unchanging. Moreover, it should have argued that it was a useful way of using time if it was being a realist. However, no one in this place opposed Amelia's suggestion. There was not a single person who would flatly deny her and say that was erring. Therefore, what followed Amelia's proposal was a realistic discussion on how to go about searching for Meili. She announced that they would split into groups to go search for her.
We have no choice but to change our plan for today. We need to split up and search for her.
But before we do that, Rom will go and check to see if Rem is safe. Before going out to call for Amelia-sama, Barsu, and everyone else, I was with her in the spirits room. I will go back now once again. That's all right, Miss Rom. Subaru, it seems like a cruel thing to ask, but I want to make sure. Did you also happen to see Miss Meili's last moments in her Book of the Dead?
Subaru hesitated to answer Julius's carefully worded inquiry. The answer to that question on whether he had seen Meili's last moments was a yes. Subaru had experienced the very moment in which Meili's life had been snuffed out. Her neck had been strangled, her consciousness had slipped away as she was being choked, her thoughts had been filled with hatred and despair, and then it had stopped abruptly. It must have been in that very moment that her life had ceased. It was Natsuki Subaru who had experienced this and been complicit in hiding the girl's corpse. Natsuki Subaru was helping the man who killed me. The Natsuki Subaru who knew me was helping none other than Natsuki Subaru, the most detestable in this world.
Natsuki-kun, I want you to answer. Did you see her last moments? Where is she now? Did you see what on earth caused her death?
Echidna had kept hounding Subaru with questions as he remained speechless. It felt like the emotions in her words indicated that she was feeling pretty suspicious on her pretty countenance. Her words made him feel on edge. His heartbeat quickened, his back started to sweat. He feared that Beatrice by his side could notice this. In fact, Subaru wondered if everyone knew that he had some involvement in Meili's death. Subaru wondered if they already knew and were feigning ignorance in order to draw out a confession by him by employing devious tricks to corner him. These crazy ideas crossed his mind, but each time these ideas came to his mind, the look in their eyes denied these thoughts as much as being plausible. Amelia, Beatrice, Echidna, and Julius's eyes had turned towards Subaru. His thoughts scuzzy, Subaru was only struggling to frantically protect himself and his hands stained with blood. He possessed such an ugly, rotten heart. That was what it seemed like. Then, better yet, listen to my desires.
I didn't see up until the point where she died. There's no doubt, though, that she's inside the tower.
Subaru bit down firmly to the temptations brought by that me. Dangerous feelings were sprouting up deep down inside him. She was trying to convince Subaru to confess to his crime. That was the sweet curse left behind by Meili Portrout. Those thoughts were certainly newly born within Subaru. They wanted Amelia and the others to find Meili's dead body, find her, mourn her, repent for what happened, make him feel sorrow. The thoughts inside of him wanted to relieve the emotions coiled within his heart. He was getting to the point where he no longer knew who out of Natsuki Subaru, myself, and Natsuki Subaru desired what.
Do you have any strength left to read the book again?
Echidna!
Echidna had thrown out a suggestion at him which could be called completely ruthless as he struggled to decide on what he wanted. For a second, Subaru tried to reply with a, if you say I have to do it, but before he could, Beatrice had snapped at her. While still hugging Subaru's head, Beatrice's round eyes sharpened.
Name does Betty have to shout out, in fact? In any case, I won't let that happen, I suppose. Past this, I oppose it. For both emotional and other reasons, in fact.
Given the risks of being joined together as one, I would have never seriously recommended it. I wanted to make sure he was prepared just in case, that's all. You know, it wasn't my intention to make him do it even if he insisted.
Let us hope that was what you were really thinking, I suppose.
Beatrice spoke angrily over his shoulder to Echidna, who was hastily taking back her words. Immediately after this exchange, it was Amelia and Julia simultaneously who broke the awkward silence that the two left behind.
That's enough! I also don't agree with making Subaru do more reckless things. I don't want us to be forever discussing this here. We need to start moving quickly.
I completely agree with Amelia-sama. In these circumstances, we can assume it is very likely that an accident befell Miss Meili. Something may have happened, like slipping off the balcony or off the stairs, or she could have gone outside the tower.
That's not what happened!
Out of nowhere, Shala, who had yet to participate in the conversation until then, interjected to deny the concerns that Julius had blurted out. She had picked up Meili's Book of the Dead that had fallen at the woman's feet. While picking it up by its spine, she was shaking it from left to right.
Because if Anklebiter number 2 had gone outside the tower, I would definitely have turned her into a Satsujin Kikai. What I mean by that is no one went outside. You sure are quick to touch the book that we hesitate to touch for some reason. Leaving it out on the floor makes me feel kind of anxious. Like, what if someone thinks that's disrespectful towards the library? I don't actually want to be a Terutu Sugayo no Omai, you know?
With that said, Shala was throwing the Book of the Dead around her hands as if juggling it. Her attitude seemed to be one born out of fear of disrespecting the library. However, it felt more unscrupulous in effect than anything. Julia scowled at her attitude.
Miss Shala, I would like for you to stop messing about with the book. You are...
You guys think that my heart isn't filled with grief or something like that? I'm not sure I said such a thing. For sure, Anklebiter number 2 clung to me quite often. I also didn't dislike number 2. But ultimately, except for Master, I don't give a fig about anyone else.
Looking quite indifferent, Shala smiled and disregarded Julius's words. He was unable to catch a glimpse of any evil intent in what she had said. It was undoubtedly what Shala had really felt, at least that was how Subaru perceived it. In brief, she was one of those people who he had found hard to comprehend certain emotions within her heart compared to ordinary people. Actually, no. Ever since he had come to this place, Subaru had only had a limited amount of contact with them. It was no wonder he was incapable of comprehending their true feelings. He wondered what complex emotions could be hiding on the other side of the mask of her smiling face, though that was just something he had come to realize all too well now after assimilating my life.
Let's split up. We'll look for Meili. Subaru, you stay here with Beatrice.
And amidst Subaru's self-condemnation and the awkward atmosphere left behind by Shala, Amelia raised her voice and interjected with a few words to urge them all into action. Subaru's heart pained with shame at hearing the girl's instructions. They want to find me.
Beatrice, I'm leaving Subaru to you, okay? I'm going to go look where Ride is.
Oh, in fact, Amelia and everybody else, be careful, I suppose.
Exchanging these words and placing him under Beatrice's care, Amelia and Beatrice sorted out everyone's roles, praying for some stroke of luck in the situation. Amelia took Ram, Echidna, and Julius with her and went back into the tower to search for Meili. As he saw them disappearing out of the library, Subaru could not find any words to see them off.
Then, I guess you aren't thinking about going with them, in fact.
After seeing off the search party, she had been left behind next to Subaru. Whilst glaring at Shala, Beatrice had bluntly said this. At receiving Beatrice's scathing gaze, Shala replied with an exaggerating tone with a, "But..."
You gotta remember my role here is just a Stars Keeper, no? So given that I've taken that title, my body and soul belong to Master. So if Master was to wish for it, I'd follow his request with all I have.
If that's the case, then you must also go and search for Meili, I suppose. Don't just dawdle here.
Really? Is that so?
Suddenly, Shala craned her neck and looked towards Subaru, the look on her face looking almost coquettish. Looking over Beatrice's head, she questioned Subaru on that matter directly. There was something bewitching about her appearance. Shala's facial expression, rather than the usual nonchalant appearance on her face, for the first time showed signs of something else other than the youthful, usual demeanor she possessed. Subaru's heart once again leapt at seeing the charm in her face. It was as if she had been endured a surprise attack. He reflexively raised his face and looked back into Shala's black irises, from which he was unable to read anything. Face to face with Subaru, Shala's lips relaxed, and showing no traces of malintent, she held the Book of the Dead in front of her ample breasts.
If Master wished me to do so, I would even knock down the moon. That's why I want to hear it from Master, not from the half-devil or from Anklebiter number 1, or from the pretty boy.
Oh.
Master Master, what should I do? Do you want me to look for ankle biter number 2? Or...
Shala trailed off for words, choosing to not say anything past that point. However, whilst looking for Subaru's decision, and while she held the Book of the Dead by her breasts, Shala refrained for herself from saying anything more. Subaru reflected, but could not come up with anything to say with her unwavering attitude. Where was the right answer deep down in himself? His conflicted emotions towards what Amelia and the others had suggested were proof of Natsuki Subaru's current contradictory existence. Mildly portrayed her life, which by no means could have said to have been long. By having read the contents within the Book of her Dead, it had snatched away of by having read the contents within her Book of the Dead, it had snatched away at him as if digesting parts of him, blasphemously chewed, swallowed, and digested with an invisible stomach. Natsuki Subaru had fully savored the life of me in 2 senses. As a result, the mixed consciousnesses of Subaru Natsuki and Natsuki Subaru were divided into something which half resembled schizophrenia, having also now taken in the little girl. Subaru wanted to conceal the manner in which Millie had died. Subaru wished for them to find Millie's body that he himself had hidden.
Subaru hated Natsuki Subaru, who killed me.
And thus, contradicting wishes were born inside of Subaru, spurring him in trying to make their desires come true.
Shola, go and search for Meili. Please, go and help Amelia and everyone else.
Before he could even notice it, Subaru was issuing something out like an order regarding what to do about Meili. Receiving his instructions, Shala raised her eyebrows and straightened her body into salute.
Roger that! If that's what Master wishes, I'll do whatever you desire.
Blinking at him while giving him a loving salute, Shala held out the book towards Subaru. He received the book, which felt like a black weight in that moment. Shala stuck out her tongue at Subaru, whose face had scrunched up into a frown. She looked somewhat mischievous, just like she was getting her own back. She turned away from Subaru and jumped down the library stairs with one giant leap. He saw her swaying black hair gradually disappear from his sights. Feeling as if he had been released from a great feeling tension, Subaru let out a sigh of relief.
Such strange things.
The falsely accused Natsuki Subaru, who did not want to divulge his participation in the crime or let them find her dead body.
I, the victim, wished for them to find my body and clear the anger and regret from myself.
Natsuki Subaru, the perpetrator, who murdered people and piled up acts of wickedness, one after the other.
All these thoughts existed alongside each other in one body. All of them loomed over and made an attempt to press Natsuki Subaru into selecting one of their choices. If he truly cared about his own skin, he would have shut his mouth regarding Meili's life and death. He would have worked harder to he would have worked his brain harder to falsify the contents he had seen within the Book of the Dead. In fact, he was incapable of doing that. Subaru would not really have the intelligence to do such an act, but more than that, he felt hostility towards Natsuki Subaru, and emphasized towards my own regrets. There was an anger towards himself in letting such a wicked being do as it pleased. It was true that last time, and the time before that, and even before that, that someone had murdered Subaru. But even that seemed like a ploy set up by Natsuki Subaru lurking inside Subaru. It seemed likely that it was a trap set up to make Subaru act rashly and hate the others. After all, what had he thought before reading the Book of the Dead was right, was it not? Amelia, Meili, and everyone else, not one of them was truly evil. The only one who was evil was Natsuki Subaru, was it not?
It for you to be languishing in thought, in fact. It'd be better if you let go of that book, I suppose.
Noticing her, Beatrice was kneeling right beside him, looking at him with a look of concern in her eyes. Right in front of him, she was giving him a look of concern. It resurfaced in his mind that Amelia had looked at him in the exact same way. A sense of discomfort took hold of Subaru's heart. The emotions that Beatrice was letting off, they were not directed towards Natsuki Subaru himself. Rather, they were directed at Natsuki Subaru. It seemed such a terribly dishonest thing to do, receiving this himself after having hidden the fact that he had lost his memory, and on top of that, having kept his silence about the true nature of Natsuki Subaru. Shouldn't he tell them? Before he knew it, it had been the current Natsuki Subaru who violently snatched Millie's life from her. If that was what was going to happen, then before that danger was once again turned towards Amelia, Beatrice, and the others.
Why are you so kind to me?
Sudden question, in fact. What's the matter, I suppose?
No. Never mind.
As a final word on this matter, if he was to try to crack the meaning behind the relationships he had borrowed, maybe he needed to hear what had occurred before becoming like so, their real opinion. He needed to know the real meaning as to why Amelia, Beatrice, and everyone else had so much faith in Natsuki Subaru and were always turning towards Natsuki Subaru. The moment he tried to put some deep thought into it, a feeling of hesitation rose inside Subaru's heart. That which I had turned towards Elsa, Amelia, and the others who, in this world, treat Natsuki Subaru as someone close to them, they would turn towards Natsuki Subaru. A gemstone that only Natsuki Subaru could have, that only he could gaze upon. The traces, the lingering scent, the remnants, the warmth that should have been there. Why was it that only Natsuki Subaru was exposed to in such proximity? Why such a man? Why such a cruel human being? Why a man with such a cruel smile? Why this man involved in Elsa's death? Why this man who had laughed as he had murdered Meili? Why this man who had tried to conceal my death? Why? Why was such a man, this man, so loved? I want to know. I don't know. I want to know. I don't know. Only me. Only Subaru. Only I do not know the reason. I don't know. I don't understand. It's all so one-sided. If I ask, will I understand? If I ask, will I be able to call into question? Can you tell me? Did you think it was genuine? The smile I expressed, the smile I showed you was a fake. There was emptiness in my heart. That's because everyone wears masks, even you, Natsuki Subaru. Even despite you not having wanted to show it to your mother and father outside the house. If there's a way to know the truth, then where is it? What do they all really think of me? What are their true feelings? Why do they all believe in Natsuki Subaru?
He can give that to you. A way to know about this.
Huh?
A voice resonating in his mind cruelly seduced him, and he realized that the solution to the problem that had dominated his thoughts for so long was close by. Hadn't there been a way to know the answer to this resting in between his arms up until now? Staring at the silent Subaru, Beatrice narrowed her eyes with uneasiness. Without returning her gaze, Subaru simply looked down between his arms. A black, heavy tome. It seemed like it was offering a gruesome welcome to his curiosity. And that's the chapter.
I'm sorry. At the end, I had to
That
mute.
one voice. My mic didn't want to do Betty's last line.
Yeah.
Sorry
Yeah.
about your
I
other
tried
line.
like 3 times.
It can be
and
ominous.
The microphone was just like, no.
Instead, we have long pause.
Great job,
It still
guys.
works.
I tried so hard. It was just like,
Yeah.
nah, we're done.
Hi, Auntie.
Hi. I just wanted to join for the discussion.
Cool.
Yeah.
I
Nice.
do apologize that half of Subaru's last grunts were gone. Even though they're really good on your end, Chase. My cousin doesn't like leaving the house, so he started crying. Sorry.
Hmm.
Hopefully you
too
guys
scared
weren't
by
too
the grunting.
distracted. I just muted at the end. I was like, oh, fuck it. Let's get rid of this.
I didn't hear it, so
Yeah, it never came through to Discord.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
yeah.
Love noise cancellation.
Yeah, Super's
Right, for
getting
the-
seduced by another evil book once again.
Yeah, this is not a good idea.
Mental illness, innit?
Oh, isn't it?
If
I had a
read this
nickel.
book-
If I had a nickel for every time Subaru was possessed by an evil book,
Two.
How many-
Nickels, which isn't a lot,
have
but it's
two
weird. It
nickels.
happened twice.
Mhm.
Now, if I had a nickel for every time Subaru was possessed by something evil, oh, that'd be.
I had several nickels, yeah.
That'd be multiple nickels.
Melee Baru is great, Sock. It's a good name.
Mainly
Nice.
Baru.
Melbourne.
This is a this arc is crazy. This arc
It is.
insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, quite literally insane.
Yeah.
Subaru is going slowly.
Yeah, reading it like the first time, I was like, "Oh, is he just gonna ask Beatrice? Like, you can ask, why are you looking at the book? Hey, wait, why are you looking at Beatrice? What are you doing? Hey,
You doing
hey, Subaru,
what's happening?
Subaru."
What's happening? Yeah, it's interesting because even though we're still getting the story from Subaru's perspective, this is the first time where like I think maybe since the beginning where there's a bit of a disconnect between the reader and Subaru. Not that much, but like Subaru feels like his actions feel sometimes so shocking and so surprising that you're like, what the hell are you doing, Subaru? What are you doing? What is going on? You know.
Subaru, why'd you murder that kid?
Why are you doing this, Subaru? What is going? Yeah, not cool.
Not cool, man. Murdering children. I know, crazy take. Let's not do it.
Let's
And
not do
then
that.
Not Gucci gang.
Let's not hide it either. Well, I mean that's a slippery. That's. I mean you're already in the hole, but
I'm gonna
Yeah.
be
That's
so
why you
real. I
don't
don't know
murder
why
kids.
Subaru just didn't throw her off the staircase and make it seem like
Yeah.
she fell.
yeah.
Oh no!
Oh no,
think
she
people would-
fell.
Maybe his brain unconsciously was like, I
Sad.
don't want to,
Well, it
I don't think
depends
he
on
wanted
how
to
much of her
desecrate her
body
corpse
survives the fall,
anymore.
because if it does, they're
True.
going to see the strangle marks on her neck anyway.
Yeah,
so it's gonna look
exactly.
like
I think
Yeah.
It's also because Natsuki Subaru wants him to be caught.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
true.
There's the conflict of me, quote unquote, wanting Subaru to confess, hey, I killed it. I killed that child. I killed me.
I did
Who is
that.
me?
It was me.
It was me. I did it. Unfortunately, I'm not.
And I
turning
do
her
it
into a
again!
gore splatter. I do it.
Good at it.
Run it back. Mods,
Look,
put
we
your head
had
up
it
so I can kill
coming.
Mary again.
We need like a game. We need like a film theory-esque video that just like calculates the size of the Pleiades Watchtower and their general like area in it to
We're gonna-
see like how much
We're gonna
Mei's
get that
body was
eventually with
hit
the
by.
actual scene in the anime. Because
True.
if we get a calculation on how long it takes from the fall that first time, then
We'll have a better chance to gauge just how big it well, yeah.
How big it
the
is.
tower
It's
How
also just
much of
hard to
Melee
calculate because
survived?
it's bigger in the like inside of the tower than it respectively is on the
Yes.
outside.
Yes. Yeah.
we will
like
legitimately
the
only will be able
TARDIS.
to determine it.
It genuinely
by
is like
how
the
long
TARDIS,
it was
yeah.
all for.
Well, it's
Bigger alien?
less about it being like the TARDIS and more the outside doesn't show the bottom floors. So you like have 2 extra levels that
Maybe
it goes
it's
down.
it's both.
It's both.
Well, I guess.
I like comparing
There-
it to a TARDIS.
There is some like space warping, but it does
Yeah.
have like a standard structure to it as well. It's
Oh.
about 80 stories high.
Yeah.
That's a
So
lot of
long
stories.
fall.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a lot of stories. That's more. That's less stories that it has inside of it, but
Yeah.
Terrible,
I'm
but
sorry, that was a
yeah.
horrible dead.
Oh shit.
The
I'm
library.
God.
was a horrible dad joke.
I got it.
I don't know why that's so funny to me.
Well, to keep us moving along, because we are now
Sorry.
at our big chapter, and we got 2 more to go.
Yep.
I think let's
Huzzah.
lock into chapter 48, Murder Becomes a Habit.
Yippee dippy.
Yeah, I do need to admit I did mess up a little bit. Common's voice shouldn't have been coming in until this chapter. That is my bad on that.
Oh, well. We'll
Okay.
fix that
Yeah,
for
it's
the
fine.
final.
I can write it
That's a
down.
problem for post.
Don't worry, it'll be a
Hmm.
problem for me.
That's a Greenie issue.
That's future me issue. That's not current me. Current me is chilling.
Just chilling.
Yeah.
I'll support you on it. We'll figure it out together. La la la.
Sometimes I see like people that are like, "Oh, I just found this cool place to do Reverie. I'm catching up with them in Arc 6." And I wonder what they think of when they hear these in-between sections.
So many people skip them. They're like, I don't care for their thoughts.
Oh.
Of course,
They're
That is
like,
disappointing.
where's the next chapter? Give it. Give it.
next chapter.
I
Next
mean, I
consume,
guess that's
consume.
fair enough, but
Consume chapter.
still, it's like, come
Oh
on.
my gosh.
fair.
When I first did
The
this
best
Spotify,
part.
I had people send me like messages and emails. They're like, get rid of the in between. We don't want to hear it. And I was like, why?
Ooh.
Why?
But that's the best part.
We're human beings.
Yeah, I
voices
just avoid the
and opinions.
Spotify account like the plague because they're always so mean. I saw somebody ask about it. I will fill it this summer. It's just not top priority with everything else we've got, considering Spotify does nothing for the creators. It's just like, oh, give us your
Yeah.
stuff.
Ugh, going back
Is
to
there a
Arc 5.
reason why-
Scary.
It is.
Is there a reason why the Spotify community is more
Probably because
insensitive?
they're literally there just for like a specific type of content.
Yep.
And anything that takes them out of it,
Yeah.
they're like, ew, gross, get rid of it. This is.
Yeah, then.
Yeah.
I just have this on the background. I shouldn't have to go over to like fast forward through something. Bleh.
Yeah. Thank you.
I imagine
Ryan.
I have
that's
to be
exactly what goes through there,
Yeah.
including the bleh.
I have to click
Roni
one
for
extra
joining the
button.
Ocean Company.
Thank you.
Okay, I've finished laying out which of the points of internal narration are Subaru again.
Refresh.
Okay,
We're good
hold
for
on.
48.
Refreshing. I've learned my lesson. Only need to learn a lesson once, and then it's there forever.
Which is the best part about
Seared
learning.
into your mind.
Ugh.
Wait, before
Oh,
you guys
someone
start, I
got
just want to say,
non-cat. Are you okay?
Uh,
Oh, shit.
what?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I really liked Kiki's Beatrice voice last chapter. I don't know, something about the delivery.
It's TLD.
Cheers.
It's
Yeah,
good.
I'm just standing in.
Kiki's been away for a bit.
For Kiki.
Yeah, which is fair.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying.
Oh,
my
sorry,
best.
I was just looking at the just looking at the roll call.
No,
my bad.
that's fine. I think I forgot to be added to it. It's fine.
Anything
but
that's
I
in
love your-
brackets is the original VA, and then the person on the side is the one covering. So just like with me,
Oh.
you'll see under like Charlotte,
There
it's
wasn't one
Fate,
for Beatrice.
and then me.
Kyle's
Ah,
everywhere.
My bad. My bad.
That's okay.
But yeah,
It's all right.
I really liked your Beatrice voice. There's something really mature and like kind of raw about it last chapter. I don't know. I just liked the quality it had.
Part of the mom voice.
Dodge it!
It's the mom voice.
Server mom,
which is an
IRL
interesting-
mom.
It's
We,
an interesting
Mom.
flavor to add to Beatrice. I haven't really heard before. Yeah, it's great.
Thank you.
We are ready for 48?
We
Yeah.
Let's do
One of my
it.
favorite chapters in the entire series.
Oh yeah.
Going in blind as I always do, so let's get the show on the road. Woo!
Oh, you're gonna love it.
All right, we got TLD. You are locked in. We got our Subaru, Betty, and Melee. Perfect. All right. Best of luck.
Arc 6, Chapter 48. Murder becomes a habit. Subaru was silent as he looked down at the black cover of the Book of the Dead held in between his arms. Beatrice nestled closer to him, and feeling her worried and strange gaze, Subaru did not dare to move. Until now, What had dominated Natsuki Subaru's mind were questions he would ask himself without any particular answer, as if engaging in Zen dialogue. Truth was, that which was occupying Subaru's mind were just shallow thoughts that could be discarded as just wasteful thinking. They were the laughable, vague questions of a child.
Everyone, no matter who, always had an inner face which others would never see.
This was an obvious truth which everyone learned as they came of age. The expression of hatred behind a smile, the sorrow and tears behind their anger. Human beings were ones that could pretend that these emotions did not exist, while hiding their true feelings. It was impossible to fully understand the true wishes, the true desires, the true intentions of those human beings. Brothers, sisters, parents, children, spouses, family members, one could never fully come to understand any of them. Friends, childhood friends, best friends, lovers, no matter how close one's relationship became, by no means would it ever be possible to uncover what was hidden deep inside them. What they loved, what they desired, what they preferred, who they let their guard down around, who they felt comfortable with. These were completely different problems to those various connections of mind and body. Indeed, he was aware of that. But still, he wished not to abandon these thoughts just for the sake of it. He wanted to know. He wanted to understand it. He wanted to hear it. He wanted them to reveal everything. That was his arrogant but desired wish. Even more so, when both his own and the others' lives were hanging by a thread, even if there were absolutely no means of doing so, nor would one come to be.
No, there was supposed to be absolutely no means of doing so.
He laughed at the thought of it, sure. There was supposed to be absolutely no way to do such a thing. But in this library of Tegeta, Subaru ended up finding out how. Meili Portrout. By reading her Book of the Dead, Subaru had vicariously experienced Meili's life, understood what she thought and felt, and who she hated at the time of her demise. Of course, this extremely short experience did not define the girl called Meili entirely. The time she had spent alive was too long to even accept all her individual events into his brain. Even if the life she had lived had been a short one, he could by no means have absorbed into him all of her memories. Eagerly gnawing away at the key points, drinking them in with the intention of understanding Meili. Those were how Natsuki Subaru felt right now. Such was painfully clear to see. However, but even so, by comprehending that he did not understand even a bit of the girl, Subaru now had a deeper understanding of Meili than ever before.
There was a person whom I cherished. Her life had been stolen away from me, and now, alone, my heart continued to wander. Being with Subaru and the others, who were the ones responsible for that, I struggled to understand exactly what my purpose was. I went to the library to find her Book of the Dead, and I felt ashamed and in despair when I discovered
Meili, whom Subaru knew absolutely nothing about. He had discovered the girl's innermost feelings and desires without even expecting it, and thus he had realized that this Book of the Dead itself was the means to truly find out the true intentions of others, without any falsehoods between. It was just that he wanted to know. It was the only thing he desired. The real intentions of Amelia, Beatrice, and the others in the tower were what he wished to know. He wanted to know why they put so much trust in Natsuki Subaru. Why did they believe Natsuki Subaru, who was responsible for killing me? And now, what did they think of Natsuki Subaru, who desperately pretended to be the despicable Natsuki Subaru? Intimacy was just camouflage, hatred was reality, and feelings like anger, sadness, and joy were temporary. Hostility and malice, were those not the true feelings? I don't know. I want to know. I want to trust them. I can't trust them. Are Amelia and the others allies, or are they enemies? Are they enemies who killed Subaru? Are they allies that want him to live? Can I love them, or can't I? Can I hate them, or can't I?
Won't I obtain that answer by reading their Book of the Dead?
Subaru, you really look terrible, in fact. If you are feeling uneasy here, it'd be better if we went somewhere else for you to rest, I suppose.
Touching Subaru's shoulder, who was immersed in thought, Beatrice gave her suggestion. Subaru was rendered breathless for a minute, being trapped by the gaze of her characteristic blue butterfly pattern in her eyes. Looking at it, the girl's tiny, tiny palm rested on Subaru's shoulder. What would happen if he took her hand, grabbed her head, and smashed it on the floor with all his strength?
How small.
What are you suddenly saying, in fact? Smallness is exactly the reason behind Betty's loveliness, I suppose. Subaru has also said that, in fact.
Subaru reflexively relaxed his cheeks as Beatrice sullenly blurted this out. Certainly, were Subaru in his normal state, it would not have been weird for him to have said that. Noticing the similarity between himself and Natsuki Subaru, he smiled bitterly. Small. Truly, Beatrice was just a small child. Her neck was thin, her bones fragile. The hand that rested on Subaru's shoulder was small enough to be fully covered by his palm. If he put even a bit of strength into his arms whilst hugging her, it seemed like her fragile body would break. If these thoughts were turned to actions, he should be able to easily kill her. If he killed her, if her life blinked out of existence, would her book appear in the library?
Just like you did with me, no?
Suddenly, Subaru heard a voice from his subconscious, one which would be impossible to call his own. It was somewhat sweet, glossy enough to sound adult, but it was a strangely familiar voice. In a short period of time, the voice had become familiar enough that he could call it his own. The voice inside him was that of the dead little girl who mocked Natsuki Subaru's intentions. However, Subaru discarded this event, concentrating on the matter in front of him. That was whether the Book of the Dead could be realistically utilized. If so, then how would he go about making this come true?
Your face looks really pale, I suppose. Indeed, we should go somewhere else, in fact. But before that, I must return that where it originally was, I suppose. It's no good for Betty, too, to be in the haze, in fact.
Saying that, Beatrice took the Book of the Dead from Subaru's stiff hands. She held it cautiously to ensure the book would not open, and placed it where an empty gap in the bookshelf was present, the place where it originally had been.
It's easy to understand and remember where it was positioned, I suppose. However, it's possible that the books in this library will just start moving on their own.
A safety measure. That's... Yeah, I suppose that's right.
You want to think that bringing it out is pretty dangerous, in fact. Safer than throwing them out onto the floor, because Shallow was concerned about that, I suppose.
I feel like being in this library is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Subaru dryly spat these words out in conversation. In reality, even in the world which Subaru knew, it was said that opportunities such as coming across a book which had been published quite some years prior would only come once. Just like coming across a secondhand bookstore while traveling. If he missed out on this opportunity, it was possible that he would never find the book ever again. The speculation may also apply to this library. Like usual, had he been overthinking this? No doubt that this thought was bothering him. Either way, whilst warily looking at Beatrice's back as she struggled to arrange the books, Subaru immersed himself deeper and deeper into his sea of thoughts. Awfully realistically, counting backwards the lives from the warmth he had felt, he searched for a way to kill her. Although, Beatrice was not the only one he should think about. Every single one of the members inside the tower were in the position of becoming a target to Subaru's plan involving the Books of the Dead.
So you want to try and kill them because you want to check if they can be trusted or if they should be doubted? Oni-san truly is warped.
The voice of the little girl interrupted him, causing Subaru to inwardly click his tongue. The first thing he wanted to say back was that he thought of it as a necessary thought experiment. By no means was Subaru a psychopath dominated by homicidal impulses. He was not controlled by such abnormal urges whereby he must take pleasure in deeds like that. But right now, when thinking this through, this had been the only choice that had come to his mind. It seemed rational.
Enough with the excuses. I wonder, can you tell me what you were going to do?
It would be very easy to get rid of Beatrice.
Because she was showing her back to Subaru, unprotected, defenseless, completely unguarded. It could clearly be stated that Beatrice's life was precariously balanced by a thread which depended entirely on Subaru's flawed reasoning. Once that rationality surpassed reason, Subaru would very likely take the girl's life quite easily. Regarding Beatrice, the only options he had were to do or to not do. It seemed possible to entirely disregard the countless other possibilities that branched off as an alternative from his standpoint.
Well, what about the half-witch One-san?
The likes of Amelia would be even easier. A piece of cake. Once, he'd even seized her by the neck after he had woken up. Back then, she had not displayed any signs of resistance. As long as Subaru put all of his strength into his arms, he could easily throttle that fragile neck of hers. He could say with certainty that she possessed strength similar to that of a pro wrestler, but it meant not unless she was prepared to use it. If, in an instant, he would strangle her neck with all his strength.
Foo. It's your specialty, eh?
Ram, despite her sharp tongue, was in essence also merely a weak girl.
It reminded Subaru of the time she cried while pressing her head against him, entreating him for his memories. With her thin arms desperately embracing him, weak. She was just a girl, after all. Echidna was similar as well. Come to think of it, they were all weak girls. He had really made the wrong selection of people if the mission was to cross the desert. As much as he would have liked to have more suitable people with him, there really just were not enough people to go around. Therefore, even though Subaru could take advantage of that chance, the last obstacle in his way was a different story.
Julius.
The one obstacle that stood in his way was a man much like Subaru, This character, which until now carried a sword in hand. For him to say that it would be a good idea to strike at him head on was impossible. One could also say it was a suicidal act to strike at Amelia head on, but that was a whole other story. In any case, if he were to implement the Book of the Dead plan, the man would be the biggest wall in his way. In other words, Julius was the one he should beat first.
With the amount of time it takes to search for the books, however much time you have, it's not going to be enough, right?
According to the words of the girl, Subaru's purpose was not simply kill and be done with it. Rather, killing was a necessity, a passing point that must be cleared, as his desires laid ahead, on the side of the books of the dead obtained in exchange for death. For that purpose, it was necessary to be certain. He had killed, he had failed, so he could not let it end like this. Beyond this, he had a goal.
Subaru, that's enough books for the moment, in fact. Let's get far away from here. Like the spirit room or somewhere like that, I suppose. You should calm down there, in fact.
Spirit room.
Beatrice, coming back and taking Subaru's hand, helped him to stand up. Subaru was reminded of the room with the spirit, and his restart point came to mind. That place was the green room, and at that place...
Patrichet.
You're saying that ground dragon's name again. Jeez. There's no point worrying about an Aikata like you, I suppose. Penny was the worried one. Unbelievable, in fact.
Sorry. I didn't mean it like that.
For a moment, the figure of the black ground dragon brushed his mind, and his lips softened. As Beatrice reproached him, Subaru hurriedly came back to his senses. However, even in this scene, Patrichet remained the only one who Subaru could put his trust in. Actually, only Patrichet, who had risked death to defend Subaru, regardless of her true intentions or feelings, was a being who had remained by the side of Natsuki Subaru.
Really? If she knew that Oni-san isn't Natsuki Subaru, I wonder if she would still do the same thing. After all, on Oni-san's side, there's no one, is there?
Waiting in his mind was a smiling voice ridiculing Subaru, haunting him. An existence that differed from Natsuki Subaru attempted to break his optimism. It was a silly point, and he would have been better off laughing it away. However, at this moment, Subaru could not afford that. His heart came to half agree with the girl's words. He reckoned that even considering the kindness that made Patrichet give her entire being, that which was directed at Natsuki Subaru, were she to discover that the current Subaru was a fake, she would come to disregard him.
Hey, Subaru, give me your hand, I suppose.
Sure.
His brain being toyed around by the girl's voice, Subaru grit his teeth with hard-to-accept emotions. Consequently, his vision started to shift out of focus. Holding out her hand in an attempt to hold his, suddenly she made a face indicating that she had noticed something. Her gaze was directed at Subaru's wrist. She had noticed it.
There are scratches, in fact, and so many.
Rolling up the sleeve of Subaru's right arm, Beatrice furrowed her eyebrows at the scratch marks, pathetic and painful to look at. Even if it seemed she had not noticed the scratches deeply bored further up in his arm, just the forearm was enough. At that moment, Beatrice was not cognizant of the manner of Maylee's death. She therefore should not be able to immediately connect these scratches with Meili's death. But even discounting this, she should be wondering where the hell he had gotten these wounds. If Meili's corpse were to be found, she would inevitably be suspicious. His unprepared heart began beating like an alarm bell going off. Before his eyes, laying her eyes upon his hand, Beatrice did not notice that expression of his. With instant action, it would be possible to take care of Beatrice.
What are you gonna do? Shouldn't you get started already?
As if playing with his self-confidence, the voice urged Subaru to a decision. His temple throbbed from the blood circulating through it, along with his pounding heart. As things were, depending on what Beatrice continued with, he would have to...
It seems you scratched your arm again, in fact. Bad habit, I suppose. This isn't good, in fact. Had Amelia noticed it, you would have made her really worried, I suppose. Even Betty can't overlook this when it's this bad, in fact.
Tracing Subaru's scars with her fingers, Beatrice painfully cast her eyes down. Following those remarks, Subaru was unable to move from the unexpected impact of her words. It was almost as if Beatrice was familiar to seeing the scratches that covered Subaru's arm. Even so, supposing others noticed the scratches on Subaru, it was completely different from the horrible situation, for entirely different reasons. There was no mistaking that, this time, the arm had been scratched in self-mutilation. She had even stated that she had concealed this from Amelia, which in itself was shocking.
If you go to the room with the spirit, these wounds will be healed as well, I suppose. But still, because Betty cannot bear looking at it, Betty will heal it, even if a little bit, in fact.
With those words, Beatrice wrapped Subaru's wrist with a pale light. The cozy sensation that came about, warm as it was perhaps the twinge of his wounds healing up. Healing magic was what was being shown before his eyes. At the same moment, any hostility that Subaru had for Beatrice inside was rapidly swept away. Along with this warmth, the humanity of Natsuki Subaru, which had ruptured along with the wounds on his wrist, certainly seemed to be restored as well.
Boring.
The little girl grumbled in Subaru's head, as if her hopes had been betrayed. While listening to her directly in his skull, Subaru swallowed down the evil environment that had taken root in his head. Certainly, it had been an option, but it had been nothing more than an option. There was no need for him to lead himself in the direction that longed for their Book of the Dead, especially in a situation where no preparation had been set in place. Inflicting harm on Beatrice right now was not a good idea. His preparations had yet to be readied. Even if he took the worst possible means, it must be done after thorough plans were made. As such, now, this place...
Come now, let's go, I suppose, Subaru. Betty will eventually talk about it to everyone afterwards, in fact.
All right. Sorry to bother you, Beatrice.
Promise not to speak about this, I suppose.
Although he did not know whether the concern of the girl before his eyes was genuine or not, Natsuki Subaru thought that he ought to listen to her. Firstly, though unrelated, there exists a phrase. Murder becomes a habit. That is one of the phrases the famous detective Hercule Poirot left the world with.
Murder becomes a habit.
The meaning of this phrase does not refer to a person who has killed a human being and then suddenly waking up with a preference for murdering people. repeats the crime to satisfy their cravings.
Murder becomes a habit.
It refers to someone who solved the problem once by murder, and for them, whenever another problem arises, they will think about trying to break through the situation through murder again.
Murder becomes a habit.
By the time they start to consider that murder is not one of those options, the utmost important thing would have already changed.
Murder becomes a habit.
Truth is, even if there was a single murderer who did not commit a crime by his own will, even if he dislikes the act, even if you see a glimpse of the memory of the one who had been harmed by such an action, that habit is not discarded.
Murder becomes a habit.
That habit is not discarded.
Murder becomes a habit.
That's the end of the chapter.
Yay! You're terrifying.
Yay!
Oh my god.
Good job, y'all.
Woo!
That was kind of nuts.
I forgot about the Agatha Christie reference.
Yeah, it's really good.
I saw it coming up. I was like, oh crap, I know how to pronounce this. I gotta remember. Quick, go! Hercule Poirot.
The most famous Belgian person that
Yep.
didn't exist.
With the most fabulous mustache.
Mustache.
The twirler.
Wolf, your laugh legitimately chilled me. I was not prepared.
Yeah. Neither was I.
I got
I
goosebumps.
just
was like,
thought with like how it narrated that as his thoughts were becoming more and more absurd earlier, and he started to laugh about it. I just it felt kind of natural for it to progress.
It felt right.
Yeah.
right. Yeah. You went for it. That was great.
Thank you. I think we learned something that's really important that you can kind of allude to before with how Subaru acts, but this just outright confirms it, that Subaru hurts himself, even as normal Subaru.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Although from the
Beatrice
way-
has been keeping it from everyone else and helping him with it, like healing it at least, not helping him with the act, of course.
Yeah, it's still unclear if it's like an anxiety thing he's doing subconsciously or like intentional self-harm that he's done a couple of times. He's like banging his head and such, but it is still chronic enough for Beatrice to be like, ugh, you scratch your arms again.
This
Listen,
isn't normal. Or this
damn
is
it,
usual.
can't leave you alone.
This fucking guy.
This fucking guy. I remember when I was first reading this chapter, like, when Arc 6 was still getting like translated in different spots and stuff, and I'd gotten to this one. And I was like, oh my god, Subaru, scary thoughts. This is like really interesting. I've never seen like this before. And then you get that whole moment with Beatrice just being like, you did this again? And it completely shook my entire view of Subaru up until that point, because I knew he'd hurt himself, like where he'd like slap himself or bonk himself in the wall, but to like actively do that, or even subconsciously, is like a degree of concern that I hadn't reached yet.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a good thing she can't read Japanese, or she'd be a
Yes.
lot more concerned over
She'd be a
what
lot
those
more
scratches
concerned.
were.
Man, you scratched in a very weird pattern here, I suppose.
it looks like some kind of language or something. Yeah.
And
But
I know
fortunately,
Trying to be artistic, you're failing, in fact.
Fortunately, katakana is a lot more of like straight lines and a much like a super simple shapes and designs. It could very easily be just scratches.
True.
Thank
True.
God.
it's I think at first you may be like, Beatrice keeping that from everyone else seems really bad, but I think a real big point of why Beatrice was doing that for Subaru before was because she wanted him to at least be able to come to someone about it.
Yeah, you wanted him
Yeah.
to be ready to speak about it.
Yeah. It very much like worrying that if she tried to push too much, he may have gone a bit further away and not trusted her about it.
Yeah.
which is so sad.
Incredibly.
But Subaru's catching up to the
Yeah.
other Subaru now. Ha
Yay!
now.
Yeah, but there's also
Yeah.
Melee and another voice in his head trying to stop him from getting there.
So
Yep.
many voices.
I
So
don't think
rude.
we've ever- Oh no, we have. No, okay, never mind.
Oh,
But
Huh?
People might not have remembered.
Hmm?
Tails.
what the fuck is going on?
Kyle's, is your mic off?
Oh. Hello,
Oh.
how's that?
There we go.
There you
That's
are.
better.
we go.
There you go.
Very quiet.
Shit, sorry. I turned it down low. Good thing too, because I tripped over my Xbox controller halfway through and
no.
ate shit, but no one heard, I don't think. So that was great. I don't remember what I
okay?
said before. No, I'm fine.
What?
I'm
No.
fine. Nothing new. Yeah, sorry. I
Good.
spoke to nothing for a
Something
bit
here.
and then forgot it. Might be.
You're good.
Extra voices in head. Where else were we going? with that?
Cuckoo.
Oh,
Catching
yes,
up.
sorry. I was like, if people don't remember when we announced Taildee's other character, then they won't know who that is.
Tee.
But if you
This is
did
true.
remember the announcement, then you know who that other voice is.
If that name means anything to you still.
Good thing
Yeah,
you're yeah,
it's-
Betty
it's-
as well.
Fucking Arc 5.
Dun-dun-dun.
The last
Dude.
thing
Now
I'll
I
say
can figure it out, I suppose.
about Subaru hurting himself is that it puts a lot more of a darker tone on that year time skip they had.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the context we gotten before about it was Subaru was living an easy life, he didn't die at all, and he was just doing stuff, but the scars of what he had been through was still there, it just wasn't on the surface.
Yeah. I mean, getting eaten alive kind of takes a toll on you. I don't think you
Sure
should
would.
feel it with that ever. Nah.
Bottom
Dying doesn't
10
cause
deaths,
trauma.
bro.
Also, constantly reinforcing your trauma of failure by going to the person that suffered because of it every single night to tell them about everything that they're missing. It's going to induce some anxiety.
Yeah, that's a bit of a, I guess, flagellation
Bit
in
of a
some
mental
degree.
health L.
Yeah, that's already a form of self-harm to a degree.
Yeah.
I guess he's mentally torturing himself by doing that.
Like constantly reminding himself that he's a failure.
Mm-hmm.
He needs therapy. Reinhard!
Doesn't
Where's your-
exist in this world.
We should have
Damn
should have
it.
therapy.
Reinhardt, divine protection
Reinhardt!
therapy!
Yes,
It
please.
does, but you have to traumatize yourself to get it. Echidna's thing was therapeutic for Amelia in the end.
Yeah, but it's Echidna breaks all the rules of a good therapist, like all of them.
Every
Like,
single
yeah.
one, and plus some that don't exist, but somehow they got broken.
Yep.
Oh yeah. It's a magic.
They are in the book because they're just common sense, but like, she broke them anyways.
She inflicts undue stress upon the patient. She does things that are outside of their consent, like all of the baggage, just everything. Yeah.
We ready to jump
Did
into...
not
She's
leave.
not a good person.
Comment. Today's mental breakdown is brought to you by Echidna Scarf Emporium and Emotional Excavation Services. Trademark. We dig deeper because you're clearly hiding something.
Let's see your
Ayo.
book of the
Is there a
dead.
What the hell?
That
I
was
don't-
a crazy good
don't-
commercial.
That was
Does
good.
the,
Subaru offs his therapist to read the Book of the Dead and gain all of her therapist powers.
Yeah.
Holy-
Subaru, kill a therapist!
Ed is quaking in his boots.
Doctor, the voices
Ed.
in my head said you need to die, so...
Ed, I have to kill you. Sorry. Melee
They
told
have
me.
things
to.
to discuss with you, and it's the only way to get you all together. So
Melee. Ed, we need to kill you.
apparently we're
That's what-
unitologists now.
Can you imagine if
this
Subaru
is
never recovers from this? He just has a ghost melee in his head for the rest of the story.
Dude, don't spoil the story.
Hey,
That,
don't spoil- Come on, man.
Whalers, oh my god, man. No, I don't know.
It's the constant devil on the shoulder.
For the rest of the
Just
series,
like
it should
maybe
be
you
called
could
Meat.
like trip them up and make them fall down the stairs, man, and then read their book, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
could strangle Amelia right here. You could
Right,
do it.
that's definitely
She's
gonna go
alone
well.
with you.
Yeah. Beatrice,
She's
you could
about
just,
to
like,
confess to
do
you,
a little
but you
punt.
could strangle her.
You could punt her.
Beatrice is small. You just gotta go.
If you kick
Oh
her
no,
like
my
a
foot
football
slipped.
off
Oh
the
no.
balcony, it'll be fine.
You can just kick her right now.
Ghost
Right
and
now.
Elise should, like,
By the time she gets to
like
the
a-
bottom, no one will know what happened.
the ghost Lily in Subaru's head should wear like a devil costume or something, and just like be.
Mm.
Yeah, it's the devil on the shoulder.
Yes. Do that.
We don't have an angel.
Or the angel's just
Yeah.
sitting there like, no, wait. They've got a point.
Let him cook.
No.
The
He's got a point.
closest thing we've got to an angel because he can fly is Roswell.
Oh.
So if you have
John.
Melee on one shoulder,
Just
Roswell
look
on
at
the other, then
flowers, Patricia.
Patricia can't fly.
Patricia can't fly. She can't fly. Obviously, she's not.
Ooh.
She's a
Puck
horse on the
floats
shoulder.
around. That's something.
True.
Mm.
True.
Aight. Chapter 49. We're
Hello.
starting to
Hello.
bonanzas.
Okay.
Gold said, there we go. Okay.
Oh, perfect.
I'm here.
Perfect.
All right. Does my
Your
mic
mark.
sound good?
Yeah, it sounds great.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Is my sound gate on? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right, everybody. Arc 6, Chapter 49. To you, the worthless excuse. Gradually, he became aware of a sensation of numbness coming out from his arm. Slowly but steadily, the scratch marks of Meili's dying throes were starting to vanish and heal. Realizing that he was being healed, Subaru turned his eyes away from his sleeve.
Wow. This room was certainly the big deal it was made out to be.
They had stated that the spirit who resided here in this ivy-filled room would heal the wounds of living beings. That said, as Subaru had yet to have had the experience of visiting the room with any trauma up until now, he had doubted how effective it would be. While relishing the sensation of his wounds actually being healed, he was being made to reconsider that he had been unnecessarily suspicious.
Despite it being my dying message, Onisan is still being awful. But Beatrice's judgment was terribly helpful, right? Thanks to her, the evidence left around your wrist will disappear.
The shade of the little girl, incessantly speaking inside his head, annoyed him. What really anguished him was that the girl's words really struck deep into his heart, to the point it was impossible to say that they did not reflect Subaru's inner thoughts. He did not know whether this little girl's shade was running rampant due to being part of Subaru, or whether it had been because of her ghost literally possessing him after reading her Book of the Dead. Whatever the reason may be, he mustn't bend his ear to what the little girl was saying. He mustn't listen to her. Just that fact brought his sense of annoyance. Thus, Subaru consciously closed his mind to the sound of the incessant hallucinations. However, the more Subaru attempted to seclude himself in his own shell, the louder and more talkative her shade became, growing more impish and poking fun at Subaru. The most annoying thing was...
Right now, you don't have Beatrice beside you anymore, do you? Since there's no one in your way, why don't you just get rid of that sleeping girl? Don't start looking like you're about to cry. I know you're trying to ignore me, but you can't. Onisan's such an adorable guy.
The little girl's voice, which had no corporeal presence, was heard by Subaru as if it was a whisper in his ear. If he closed his eyes, it felt like the little girl was gently leaning on his back, her figure spitting out these sweet words to his ears accompanied by sweet sighs. It almost felt like he was able to gaze upon her hallucination. He had been brought to the spirit's room for rest, and once again Subaru was presented with the same choice as when he was holding the Book of the Dead. Beatrice was on her way to tell Amelia and the others that Subaru had left the library of Taigeta, and that she had brought him to this room. Right now, Subaru had procured some time when no one would be able to see what was going on. And right in front of him was that little girl sleeping on the ivy bed, just as if she were offering to him, all alone.
Rem.
Even if he attempted to say the name of the comatose girl aloud, no emotions arose within Subaru. He had no memories of her. He only knew her name. All he was aware of was that she was Ram's twin sister, and that she was one of Amelia's companions, and that they had come to this tower looking for a way to wake her up from her long slumber. Beyond that, he wanted to know more.
The means are there. It's either you do it or you don't do it.
The sweet girl's temptation reminded Subaru, whether he was willing or not, about the plan with the Books of the Dead. Even though now she had fallen into a deep sleep, there must certainly have been a relation of some sort with Subaru at the time that she had been in good health. By borrowing the powers of her Book of the Dead, he could find out what kind of relationship and feeling she possessed towards Subaru. Above all, he'd be able to take that life far more easily than Meili's. The likes of this girl, in a comatose state as she was, could even be suffocated by just smothering her face with a damp cloth. He must do it quickly. Quickly.
Am I an idiot? No, I definitely am an idiot.
Restraining the feeling of impatience brimming in his arm, Subaru thought this foolish idea. Immediately carrying something out like that would be no good. Jumping at the situation in front of his eyes, as if drooling, would have no meaning if there were no continuation. Killing was the method. Subaru desired to find out what everyone truly believed of him. As far as it came to achieving that result, this is also a good moment to screw up how he would do it, and rush the killings. Even at the Library of Tagata, hadn't he thought the same way? If he was to carry out this Book of the Dead plan, he needed to choose the right order to eliminate the people carefully.
Julius, Amelia, Shola, Ram, Echidna, Beatrice, Rem.
Counting them on his fingers, Subaru listed the people who remained inside the tower, excluding Melee. Namely, the order in which he would prefer to get their Book of the Dead if possible. This order should enumerate who would most likely become a hindrance to his execution of the Book of the Dead plan. Conversely, unless he followed the hit list he had come up with, if he were to rush into it and act, then it would not work out. He did not want to screw it up.
If you don't, then you'll end up missing out on killing them. How scary.
He kept his silence towards the talkative shade. She seemed to give off a quite strong hint of displeasure towards him. Nevertheless, if he tried to direct words at her, her behavior would not alter. It would remain the same. Super did not necessarily want to kill Amelia and the others, but still, if he had to kill them, he wanted to go through with that only once. Only once was fine, and only if a complete plan was in his possession. And thus, with that in mind, Subaru sighed as piercing yellow eyes gazed at him. Noticing them, the gaze came from the figure sitting back right next to the sleeping girl in the spirit's room. The gaze had come from his jet-black ground dragon, Patricia. Patricia's gaze seemed to be filled with worry and gloom as she regarded the exhausted Subaru. It might be in that, before leaving this place for a while, Beatrice had told her, "Keep an eye on Subaru, in fact." As long as Patricia's eyes were focused on him, no matter how frustrated he got, he would be unable to commit any violence towards the sleeping girl. In that respect, he would like to thank Patricia for having made not a premature decision in this matter. But, after reading that Book of the Dead, Subaru was becoming unable to direct solid trust towards anyone, even to Patricia, who he had felt a great deal of affections to.
I wonder, is all of this going to your plan, Natsuki Subaru?
He wanted to believe in them. The more he pondered about their true intentions, the more Natsuki Subaru would isolate himself within this different world where he had no one to turn to. Isn't this clearly because of the game presented by the wicked Natsuki Subaru? Bit by bit, the scratches caused by Melee continued healing. While savoring the feeling of his aches and pains fading away, Subaru rolled up his sleeve to the place the painful scars displaying Nazi Subaru was here were carved. He traced his nails above the scabs and realized they were also being healed. He did not mind that the scratches, which served as proof of his horrible criminal acts, were fading. No, not his. He had not been himself then. However, the message that indicated the self that was not his self, only that could not erase.
This message as well.
The wound that had been carved into his left arm, and the one in his right arm too, had both been scratched in a similar manner. On his still unfamiliar black arm mottled by sable spots, there was a wound that had not been there at first. He had carved his wound there as if returning the favor for the wound carved in his left arm by the other self. Who are you? He held that serious question engraved into him as a wound. And so, while injuring himself without giving a toss about his own body, Subaru, at the same time, was unable to recognize something. The fact that Patrichet was gazing pitifully at the wound left behind on Subaru's arm, as a result of his own self-harm. Even if the wounds Melee had bestowed him were to disappear, if they were to look at Melee's own hands, they would find it evident that she had died putting up a fight, trying to desperately ward off the one who had slain her. The logic of thinking that he had concealed Melee's murder from everyone is based entirely on his own terribly sloppy cleanup afterwards. All it would take is for one gear to collapse to set everything else into motion. Feeling like a marionette being dangled from the top of the tower, standing on thin ice, turning his face away from the root of his problems, an amusing clown desperately fighting to keep his balance, that was what Subaru had become. However, this amusing clown's performance would finally in itself a curtain call without encountering any more obstacles in his way. All that was because, luckily for him, Millie's corpse had not been found anywhere. The atmosphere behind the dinner table was awfully heavy between everyone as they looked at each other. This was due to the dangerous circumstance that they had found themselves in. Half of them recognized that their desperate search for Millie's body had been fruitless, and that they had already been far too late. Although there were too few to call their search an all-out frontal assault, they had still split into groups and mobilized everyone so they could search for her. As a result, they had spent almost half a day trying to find her without even a trace of her. The feeling that all that had been for naught had grown. It was understandable that many of them were experiencing immense levels of stress.
Everything has just been going wrong since we came to this tower, huh?
No need to put what was left unsaid so clearly, even if we're thinking that.
Whilst munching on his dinner, which consisted of something like dry bread, he mumbled like this, staring at Ram with a growing feeling of lethargy. Receiving Subaru's protests, Ram shrugged her shoulders, a blank look adorning her face. However, even for her usual calm and composed self, an aura of fatigue was coming off her. And it was not just Ram. Everyone in this tower was in the same state as her.
For now, I first went to ask Raid about her, but he said he hadn't seen her. He said that no one had come there since yesterday and that he was getting bored. I don't think he was lying. Since Melee had seen what Reed looked like, I don't think she'd gone there alone.
Imagine that even that arrogant man would harm such a little girl. Though I can't say that for sure, as scary as that is, I suppose. But Betty ultimately agrees with Amelia's thoughts, in fact.
Amelia and Beatrice exchanged words between them regarding the red-haired, eye-patch-clad man who guarded the second floor. Although in his mind that man had done nothing but cause him great torment, Amelia had faced him and more or less heard him out safely. It seemed like she managed to come back unharmed. Feeling a sense of relief by that, Subaru shook his head. There is no reason for him to feel such a sense of relief, rather. He has no right to considering what had transpired before. He did not know if he had even had right to comfort Amelia.
Can I mention one thing? It may sound cruel, but I want to propose something. and I am prepared that I may end up being shouted at because of it.
Draining her bowl of bland soup, Echidna raised her hand as she finished her meager dinner. Facing everyone around the dinner table, she narrowed her turquoise eyes and spoke.
Searching for that girl, Maylee. I think we should stop for today, and from tomorrow, we should focus on trying to capture this tower again. What are your thoughts about that? We will do no such thing. What would Maylee think of us? It's already too late. She has no way to think or feel anything. That was proved by Natsuki-kun's confirmation by reading the Book of the Dead. I am against further searching for her.
Amelia had been the first to oppose Echidna's proposal, which could be said to have been both realistic and level-headed. However, Echidna's expression did not waver when hearing Amelia's argument, purely born from her emotions. However, on behalf of Amelia, who was at a complete loss for words, Beecher spoke in her place with a, "Wait, I suppose."
Your point seems to make sense, in fact. But it seems quite sudden for you to mention it, I suppose. Why is it that you want to stop the search for Maylee, in fact?
Was it really that strange to say? The food supplies we brought into this tower are limited, and as more days pass by, it is likely that staying here will become more burdensome for everyone in camp. If our stay greatly drags on, then you ought to think that search party will be sent out to look for us.
Naturally, Amelia-sama and Anastasia-sama. Well, her contents right now are different, but both of you are esteemed candidates for the royal selection. You should not even be in this tower amid the sand sea.
Beatrice and Ram began to display a somewhat lukewarm attitude, beginning with Echidna's proposal. The suggestion that went by the rules of rationality served as a trigger for colder opinions, making the tense atmosphere around their dinner table meeting more intense.
Gee, this isn't much fun. If you're going to squabble, I'd rather you did it away from Master and I. But I don't mind either way. As for me, I'll build a happy family with Master. Just the two of us. A girl first, and then a boy. Oh, and then another boy.
He did not deign to reply to Shala, who had slipped into the seat right next to him as she babbled on, sticking her tongue out at the tense atmosphere around her. She had also shown this kind of attitude back at the library. Shala had pressed Subaru for her choice back at the library. What was it that she had wanted Subaru to reply to her? As she referred to Subaru as her master and completely idolized him, then how far would she go for him? Just how far would she obey him if Subaru were to give a command?
We should stop arguing.
Julius, with anguish etched across his hands and face, broke the tense mood around them. He placed his arm in front of Echidna and looked at Beatrice and Ram.
Beatrice-sama, Miss Ram, as a member of her camp, I deeply apologize for Echidna's careless words. However, do not misunderstand what she meant to say. She did not make such a proposal with only rationalism in mind, with no other meaning to it.
Julius, stop. That speech was...
Amelia-sama's camp may have lost the little girl that accompanied us here. That pain can be felt there. If possible, we should be more understanding in this situation.
Hearing Julius's sincere remarks, Echidna halted herself from speaking any further. Julius then turned to face Beatrice once again.
For now, Anastasia-sama's body has pretty much been taken over by Echidna's spirit. It is true that we cannot find a way to get Anastasia-sama back from her current state, but there are other issues as well. Echidna is, with every passing moment, consuming Anastasia-sama's ode.
Her ode? So she's always been burning her way through it? Has it always been like that? Ever since Anastasia-san became unable to be woken up?
Indeed. I imagine that is why she wants to hurry in borrowing the sage's wisdom by capturing the tower.
The rest of them reacted in shock at hearing Echidna's secret being spoken out loud by Julius. Having had her secret revealed by her own camp member, Echidna shrugged her shoulders at the people staring at her.
No point in trying to gloss over it. It is as Julius said. I do not think it a good idea to consume much of Anna's ode like this, which is really not abundant in the first place. If I can, I want to return this body back to Anna as soon as possible. Even going as far as letting go of her human body so you're free? Even if I can free Anna's body, my own mind itself is being bound not of my own accord. I do not know how much you will trust me with what I'm saying, but...
Echidna paused for a moment, and then resumed her speech.
Essentially, one's very vessel should contain its own being. Even if you just borrow the outer shell, if the same insides do not come alongside, it'll fall to tatters and become unnatural. And that is just plain awful. Huh?
Casting her eyes down, Echidna's words had been restless, as if cursing herself. Her story had struck Subaru's heart to its very core as he listened to it carefully. If one just borrowed the outer shell, and the insides did not come with it, that pierced his heart truly profoundly.
Anyways, that is why I want to hurry up and capture this tower. By all means, if you do not believe what I have just said, you can let someone like Beatrice poke around this body just to make sure. I suppose she will immediately notice how distorted I am as a spirit, and how much ode I consumed.
Echidna entrusted to others the proof of her own situation, without noticing the turmoil brewing inside Subaru, brought upon him by her words. In fact, after being nominated, Beatrice took Echidna's arms and probed into what, in principle, was her body. It seemed like Echidna's words were proven to be true, and receiving that result.
Okay. I understand the difficult circumstances that Echidna and Anastasia-san are in. It's no wonder you want to hurry up and climb all the way from the top of the tower. I do not know if this will bring you peace of mind, but if it is said, as a sage of the tower is omniscient, possessing stoic wisdoms, then it is possible that way may also be known the whereabouts of the little girl who disappeared. When putting it this way, I really do not know how unfair it is, but... No, thank you. It's better than having no hope left after all. You're also looking out for me, and Meili too, aren't you? Maybe. Or maybe it is just that mine and Anna's body is far too cute?
Echidna, her face showing traces of awkwardness, turned away from Amelia, who seemed prepared to accept her claim. Amelia narrowed her amethyst eyes, seeing Echidna react like this. Taking a deep breath, she once again spoke.
I'm really worried about Meili, but I also get Echidna's point. So, starting from tomorrow again, let's do our best to try to get on top of the tower. Of course, I will keep looking for Meili as much as possible, but...
Remember to not neglect the importance of capturing the tower, Amelia-sama.
I know. Sometimes you've got to think of your own, and that's what's important.
Putting her hand on her cheek, Amelia chastised herself, a firm resolve growing deep in her irises. Turning back, she looked toward Subaru, who had been observing the exchange much like a spectator would. For a moment, the intensity in her gaze overpowered him, but the words Amelia continued with did not scathe into him.
Is that okay with you too, Subaru?
I guess that's okay. That way, Meili can also rest in peace. No. I guess we all need to move forward. No, not that. Why are you asking me?
Because Subaru read Meili's book? Subaru's reaction immediately after reading it. That's why I think he's the one who's the most worried about Meili. And that should be Subaru.
Amelia reminded him about it. Hearing her words, Subaru held his breath. Those directing their gazes at him was not limited to just Amelia. Beatrice, Ram, Echidna, and Julius. Everyone was looking at Subaru. What sort of intention was present in those gazes? He could not hazard a guess. Without even realizing it, Subaru moved his lips in accordance with the treacherous spirit inside of him.
I'm definitely worried, but I think Meili also would have wanted us to go on.
Perhaps. just so he could utter the most superficial words in the world. Late at night, Subaru sprung himself into action, finally having the time to act freely without anyone interfering. After the group had resolved to rack each other's brains for ideas on how to capture the second floor, and after having established a firm plan for tomorrow, the meeting at the dinner table ended. They then proceeded to get ready for bed. It was the night of a day in which unforeseen problems had occurred to one of their companions. Naturally, they had recommended that they put all their bedding together in one room and sleep together. So, more or less, they had all gathered in one room and created an improvised partition across the room using a blanket to act as a curtain between the male and female sides. However, Shira had been the sole person to insist on sleeping inside the spirit room. The after effects from reading the Book of the Dead had been the bigger part of his excuse. In fact, having witnessed how abnormal Subaru had become after reading the Book of the Dead, no one had tried to argue with him. Of course, Peters had shown particularly strong disapproval at letting Subaru sleep alone, but the spirit room had a fixed capacity limit. Feeling sick with worry, Peters had to withdraw our opposition, using Subaru's trembling voice. Rather than it being a boon of Subaru's acting prowess, it had likely been his awfully pale face that had influenced him. Honestly, it was a miracle that he had not collapsed. He was aware that he was in a terrible state.
I think Maylee would have wanted us to go on. What an actor you are. Don't get mad at me now. Isn't that sarcasm? I truly think that, and I can commend you for it.
He had thought that she had been surprisingly quiet during the meeting at the dinner table. He wondered if she had something to do with the barefaced lie he had told at the end. Even if he refused to listen to this troublesome hallucination, blocking his ears to her voice would be of no effect. That sweet voice would continue to cause him discomfort, just like the sound of scratching a chalkboard with nails.
So tonight, you're not going to take care of the blue-haired Onesame's head?
Her shade kept repeatedly hinting to Subaru, who had waited for the evening to grow dark to take action, about the existence of the sleeping beauty in the room. To the shade's temptation, identical to the one from several hours ago, Subaru's answer remained the same as before.
It's not her turn yet.
Saying that, Subaru left the room without even looking at the sleeping beauty's face. At that moment, his eyes locked with Patrichet's, who had been slightly opened her eyes. He handled the situation by bringing her fingers to his lips, shushing her, a gesture that indicated to her to keep it a secret. He did not know to what extent the intention had been transmitted to the reptilian companion, but at the same time it felt like Patrichet was cleverer than creatures like dogs or horses. Whether or not she was, it would be nice if she remained silent. After ensuring he had made it so that he ended up being left alone, the reason why Subaru started to move in the dead of night was to take the lives of his sleeping companions and to put the Book of the Dead into practice. Of course, he had carefully considered that scheme too. With Subaru's abilities, it would be best for them to be planned with surprise attacks, and one could say that during their sleep would be the best opportunity. However, it was still too early. It was the last resort, a deed that went against humanity, that he should not perform unless they forced his hand. Then, for what purpose had Subaru started acting at the dead of night? It was because of...
My corpse! What are you gonna do about it?
Realizing where Subaru was going, the voice of the little girl, as was standing behind him, posed him that question. Subaru not directed her response, but the direction he was walking towards was just as good as confirmation to her question. Subaru's acting to dispose of Meilei's still hidden corpse. Whether this could be dubbed as a ridiculous story or a lucky situation or whatever, in any case, he had no other choice. That today, Amelia and the others had not found Millie's remains should be called nothing more than a devil's plot rather than a god's plan. Thinking back on it, in regards to this abrupt situation, his cover-up was full of holes that were plain to see, to the point where that he wanted to curse himself for his own dim-wittedness. Unexpected as it was, she had not been found. That had saved him. However, from tomorrow, while committing themselves to capturing the tower, it would be no strange thing if they were to find by chance something that had slipped by them. At least, he expected Amelia not to abandon searching for Meili. Seeing that she was a girl without any troubles of her own, her heart would not give in until the situation had been resolved. It was easy to imagine that she would not restart her search for the little girl that had vanished. Therefore, it was necessary for Subaru to have peace of mind. If he could not have peace of mind, he would not be able to lay the groundwork for his success. Unless he prepared the foundations, he would not be able to build his castle on top of it in the future. If the foundations could not be built, he would not be able to achieve his future. To Natsuki Subaru's peace, the existence of Amelie Portrait was an obstacle.
I guess it kind of feels like you're being even more restless now inside your head.
He turned a deaf ear to her. She just made her affirmation clear. She would get in his way. He firmly refused to allow that to come to pass. As Subaru traveled stealthily towards the night, making sure not to draw any attention to himself, he arrived at the room where he had hidden Meili's corpse. Although the rooms in this area all looked the same, discoloration in the stone wall near the entrance of this could be seen, making so this room was easily identifiable via this landmark.
Honestly, this is going to leave a bad aftertaste.
Taking her out from the tower's entrance into the desert and burying her in the sand would be for the best. She would continue to decay if left for more than a few days inside the building, and although the temperature was not too high or too low, a body, after its biological functions had ceased, could not be expected to avoid decomposition. Indeed, if you want to never see it again, the best would be to bring it far away from the tower, as much of a pain as it would be, and turn her into chow for the witch beasts prowling about outside. However, he imagined now that would weigh on his heart. No matter what, it was an impossible decision. At the back of the dim room was enshrined a square lump of rock. On the opposite side of it, her corpse was hidden. It was an awfully childish manner of hiding. It was not possible to overlook it as if consciously. While feeling pathetic at losing his head, Suru went around to the other side of the stone. There, Meili's approximately half a day old remains.
Huh?
Without thinking, his voice leaked out. His head renounced grasping the view before him. On the other side of that stone was absolutely nothing. At the very least, he had made ready for the little girl's corpse, closing her eyes, crossing her arms together on top of her chest, the bruises adorning her pale neck, even the corpse of the poor little girl. They were nowhere to be found.
Why? I was sure. I left it there.
It was supposed to be here. He could not have possibly mistaken the room. He had not made such a fundamental mistake when coming here. He had not. So if he had not, where was the dead body which had been here? Where had Amelie Portrait's remain disappeared to?
What are you sneaking about to search for this late at night, Barasu?
Astounded, the voice from behind him made his body go stiff, and Subaru fearfully turned around. Paling, within Subaru's field of vision, at the entrance of the not-so-small room stood a single silhouette. Bobbed pink hair, sharp light pink irises, with crossed arms, her imposing yet lovely features, staring at his direction with coldness. With that out-of-place feeling in her chest, while staring at the petrified Subaru, the girl, Ram, gazed at his eyes with an absolutely cold tone of voice and said,
Or I guess I could call you a fake. A worthless excuse of a Barasu. Of Natsuki Subaru.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's the chapter.
Woo! Dun dun dun.
You dumb bitch, Subaru!
Yeah.
W-ROM.
Pachi Pachi, everybody.
It's all coming down Ram, baby. Ram
Oh,
sweep.
it's all coming together.
Huh.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Ram knows everything.
As always.
She's
She knows
cooking.
all.
Hercule
Gonna cook
Poirot.
steamed yums.
Great job, everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
great
too.
job,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yay,
Yeah,
yay.
amazing narration, dude.
Oh,
Amazing
Thank
job.
you.
yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, we just tossed you right on in. Huh?
Yeah, straight into the pits.
Hey, you're here. Good. Do this.
Hey,
Yeah.
get to work.
Yeah. Have the evil Melee Baru chapter. Enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, the tone of these chapters, of course, very dour. I mean, well, what can I say? But I mean, like, jumping back into it, I mean, I love it, doing this stuff. You know, it's great. And also, like, I've done it so often that, like, it's easy to just jump back into it. You guys did great, though. I think, like, this tone of the chapter's tones recently have all been so bleak that it's, like, hard to keep up sometimes. And
It's
Yeah.
stressful and
Yeah.
exhausting.
Yeah,
Can
my
imagine.
But you guys are
stomach's
doing a
been
great job.
turning.
Like when we all like embody these characters or even voice act them, we kind of feel a bit of their emotions rubbing off. Even as I was narrating, I was trying to be conscious of the tone, as you could tell. But like, yeah, it's great. I hope everybody enjoys reading these chapters. Normally they're a bad read, but hopefully while being narrated to you, you can kind of tolerate them a bit better, or maybe they're worse.
It's
You
a
know,
lot of
in a
people
way.
have been loving them
Yeah,
more
you're
because
more-
we do grammar corrections on the fly as well. A lot of people have
Oh,
been like,
yeah.
"Oh, your translations are great," and I'm like, "Ooh, we haven't been correcting in a while. This is just on the fly, little fixes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The grammar's kind of
fixing
funky.
the line in a little bit. Yeah.
Adjusting the tense when you're narrating sometimes too. It's
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
things.
Yes.
But we're all good enough that we can do it. So.
Yeah, we're in the know.
We're professionals here.
Yeah.
This time next week
Quote,
we should be
unquote.
done the face. So, based on our voice actors here, would you like 3 chapters next Saturday or 3 chapters on Wednesday? They're all pretty short. 18, 11, 17. 19,
Let's see how the chapters
18.
divvy up in content first.
I can't guarantee I'll be here next Saturday, so next Wednesday will be easier because that's 4th of July weekend.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Do you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
celebrate on the... Oh, fuck, when's Canada
fireworks
Day?
day.
Fireworks
Canada
Day.
Day is Tuesday, I believe.
Okay, yeah. All right. So Friday...
No,
Okay,
Fireworks day is Friday.
yeah,
I think
so...
I'll be
The
available.
holiday weekend, so it's going to be more like 3 days of explosives.
True. Well, let's see. The last chapter is kind of important considering the title. I'll put it in our group chat. I won't spoil it for our viewers. But here is chapter 54 for you guys. So,
Oh.
It is pretty
Yeah.
important.
you Americans like
Ah,
Sunday, same time? Connor, I know you got Pathfinder, but do you have it on that weekend?
We also have
Oh,
a different commitment on
shoot,
Sunday.
that's
I
right.
I will still be gone on Sunday for sure.
Would you guys like to run Saturday stream maybe just a little later in the day? Like maybe start at 3? Or just not at all, we skip it.
Maybe
do it
have
I
to
could
next
do it.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
But
I can
Yeah, I think
make
it's just 2 Wednesdays in a row to finish the phase.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Just because there's a lot going on
Iggy.
Yeah.
that weekend. So many explosives.
True. All right.
Yeehaw!
Next Wednesday, we will be doing chapters probably 50 to 52. We'll do 3 because we should have enough time. And then we'll do 53, 54 the Wednesday after. We'll take a nice break for Canada Day and 4th of July. Does
Yay.
Australia have anything next week, Common?
Nope.
Oh,
Celebrate it anyway. Go.
So actually, the 5th of July.
the 4th of July is Hamish Abernathy's birthday, so happy Hunger
Nerd,
Games.
nerd,
Nerd.
Yeah, I am a fucking nerd. What of it? What of it?
loving
to
nerd.
nerd jail.
So good
Love
to
it,
be
yeah,
back
love
in
it.
my
A caringly
fandom.
nerd.
It's great.
Yes,
Nerd in
Whatever.
parentheses affectionate.
fucking nerd.
Yep. Fucking nerds.
And then after we finish phase 3, we only have 2 more phases, and then we're done arc 6.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm waiting for this close already.
Yeah. 90 chapters. We're going to hit, well, we're at chapter 50 now, so there we go.
We might. I think we might even complete. We're definitely gonna complete before the anime even fucking comes out. which is-
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no-
That anime.
We'll
Yeah.
finish recording the arc by the end of September for certain.
Yeah.
Nice.
Based on the speed that our editors are going, we might even be catching up with the re-recorded versions shortly before it comes out. Because I'll be joining in the
Yeah.
fray very soon.
Greeny,
We got a lot of auditions to go through
Panic.
first, though.
Yes.
we-
We're actually going to
Really
wrap up the
true.
stream probably now,
Can do
so
that, yeah.
the boys and
Yeah.
I can get
Yeah.
started on that, and everyone else can rest.
Good, yes. Great.
I
Well,
rested
thank
long
you,
enough.
everybody,
Yeah, true.
for this lovely Saturday that
Thank
you all
you.
spent with us.
Glad you could all be here.
Yeah. We're back, and everybody's a little bit more free. Hope you guys have a nice summer, and we're going to be doing more work.
Yay! Happy summer! I'm an unemployed person now, so I will be here quite a bit.
Welcome to my world. Isn't it great?
Now you're employed
I
to Reverie.
love it. It's so
So
nice.
free. It's so free.
To wake up and not be
Unemployment.
stressed that tomorrow is a scary Sunday. No, not
Mhm.
anymore. No children to watch.
There.
That's not your
Yeah.
reality, unfortunately, Taildy. But
Well, the other two were still.
oh, that's right, they're away.
Yeah, I still got like 3.5 weeks before they come back, so I got time.
Woo! I'm gonna work you to the bone until they come back.
That's fair.
And
That's
with
crazy.
that, we will bid you all goodbye.
Yes, everybody.